Continuing speaking of NATO, Ukrainian civil society and Ukrainian government is watching NATO. We are preparing for the Vilnius summit. We are doing what we can to ensure that either the membership plan or some concrete decisions are taken for Ukraine. But as civil society, as Promote Ukraine, as volunteers here in Brussels, after all of those manifestations that we've done in front of NATO headquarters, after all the meetings that we had with the decision makers, representations of member states to NATO headquarters, to the organization, we still don't feel like this decision is going to happen, and we do not feel also empowered enough to change something. We try now to focus more on public opinion, also in member states, to let them know that without Ukraine, there will be no security in Europe, and NATO stands for security. Its primary goal is to ensure security and peace. But without Ukraine, it's not going to happen, and it's simply not fair that Ukraine is not part of NATO. We are defending NATO while not being part of it. So definitely there is this expectation that we deserve it. It's the time, and if not now, if not during Vilnius, then when? What would be your advice to people like us, civil society, also Ukrainian government, those that have those expectations?
Well, I think one of the challenges of the upcoming couple of months will precisely be expectation management. And that means preventing a situation in which people in Ukraine are massively and deeply disappointed by the West, by NATO, by the partners in the European Union, if there is no concrete timeline with a membership action plan after the Vilnius summit. And on the other hand, of course, the lobbying for a clearer commitment to future Ukrainian NATO membership has to be the other part, has to be the other side of the coin, so to speak. That means, signaling with symbols, with human chains, with demonstrations. That's one part. But it also means bringing together stakeholders, decision makers, with experts, with people who can provide a robust analysis to make an argument that we need to do more than has been done in the last 15 months about Ukrainian NATO membership. There are so many steps in between the status quo and a concrete timeline. And one of them, for example, is a mutual learning process, not just training by NATO and the European Union for Ukrainian soldiers. You might ask why Ukrainian soldiers need any training from rather peaceful nations. But yes, there are some skills about first aid, medical, field medics, using certain technologies, preparing, God forbid, for chemical and biological attacks or something like this. But much more important, and I would say completely undervalued, is the other direction of this process, is NATO and EU member states learning militarily from Ukraine at the moment. And here Globsec has done an important step. Just 3 weeks ago, we came out with a study, and it's nicely titled, How to Beat Russia. It wasn't completely self-understood that this title was going to be accepted, but the author, actually a German friend of mine, Nico Lange, former chief of staff of the German Defense Ministry, insisted on the title. And it lists the 10 central strategic lessons of the war in Ukraine right now, Ukraine's defensive war, for NATO forces. And there are things like the completely unprecedented massive use of drones, for for example. I mean, every platoon in Ukraine basically has at least a commercially available mini drone with a camera for close reconnaissance. Not to mention the use of armed drones and all this. Another example, total defense. Like engaging the entire population, including civilians, to use the functions on their mobile phones, for example, to spot the trajectory, to record the trajectory of missiles and drones that are flying overhead, which tremendously helps air defense and civil protection, of course. So, all these are things that NATO forces can already today start to implement in their own structures, in their own also relations with civil society, in order to increase deterrence against Russia or other potential aggressors for the member states of NATO in the future. And this mutual learning process, I think, is one of the things where we can be much more concrete, and both NATO and the European Union can do a lot more to enhance cooperation with Ukraine already now in preparation of future membership.
Indeed. You've mentioned drones, you mentioned some weapons, anti-air defense, missile systems, and I cannot but ask about the fighter jets.